Welcome back to our second episode of our OOO table. Today we are going to finish those notes. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to finish filling in this chart. So last we talked about the bottom two, and so today we're going to start with parentheses. So our P stands for parentheses. And when we say parentheses, it has to have something in the parentheses. So something like 2 plus 5. There's an actual operation inside the parentheses. Or it could be something like 2 plus 5 divided by 6. But it has to be something inside of the parentheses for it to count as an actual parentheses. And then we just learned exponents. Exponents are that little number on top. So something like 3 squared, that would count as an exponent. So now we are going to practice some problems with those actually in it. So go to the inside and let's do example number 4. So when we are doing our tower, we have decided we're going to add something to our tower. So in the tower, we have our 4 pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just like normal. We have our parentheses and exponents that never changes. Okay, down here we have our multiply, divide, subtract, and add. These are our options. The new thing that I want us to start doing. For multiplying and dividing, I want us to go ahead and draw a little integer man. So that way we can remember if there's negatives, we need to use our integer man. And on add and subtract, I'm going to go ahead and draw a chart. So I remember, hey, if there's a negative, I need to use that chart. So those are just 2 things that we want to add to help us out. So going back to the problem, let's look and see what we have. I have parentheses in this problem. Now I need to decide, do these parentheses, what do they mean? So they actually have something inside this time. So they are real parentheses, but we also need to look in front of the parentheses, and we notice there's nothing in front. So that means I need to put a multiplication symbol there. So I'm going to rewrite that just so it's a little bit easier. I have 2 times parentheses 6 plus 8 minus 5 times 32. I can't get rid of the parentheses because there's something in it, but there still is multiplication in between there. So now I can fill in the rest of my chart. I have multiplication, which we just put in there. This adding right here, this does not count as adding because it's the parentheses. So I'm not going to put an A for adding. That counts as parentheses. I have a subtract, and I have another multiply. So now I can go through and actually start solving. I do, in fact, have a parentheses. So we're going to put a box around our parentheses and do what's inside. 6 plus 8 is 14. I'm going to mark it out and then rewrite. I have times 2. And that's why it's important to have that multiplication from up here, because we need to know what goes in between those 2. And then I have minus 5 times 32. And I'm done with my parentheses. There are no exponents in this problem, so now I'm on to my first multiplication. So read it like a sentence. 2 times 14 is 28. Mark it out, and I'm going to rewrite minus 5 times 32. I'm done with that multiplying, so now I'm going to move on to another multiplying. And notice I haven't had any negatives yet, so that integer man, I haven't had to use him. So 5 times 32 is 160. I'm going to mark that out and rewrite. I have minus 28. Okay, so that multiplication is done. I'm on my last step, which is subtract. Now, when we get to subtraction, we have to ask ourselves, can I do this subtraction? Can I take away $160 from $28? No, I would be in the negatives. So that is when we need to use our table right there. This is a positive 28 and a negative 160. So I need to put them in my table. I'm going to have different signs, and we know different signs mean subtract. And if I subtract, I get 132. And my negative had more power, so my answer is negative 132. So again, just look for those negatives. Let's move on down to example number 5 and work on this one. So again, I have lots of operations, so I need my tower. It has 4 pieces. And then my parentheses and exponents never changes. I can help myself remember what the options are over here. But again, we want the integer man and our table no matter what, so we can remember to use those on those steps. And then I need to look, I have parentheses, so we need to figure out what the parentheses are telling us. So this one has something in it, but again, in front, there is nothing. So that is multiplication. So I need to put a times symbol there, okay? Also, when I printed this off, it messed up. So this 2 is actually supposed to be an exponent. So we're gonna make that a little 2. And then this parentheses over here, if I look in front of this parentheses, there's a plus sign. So those parentheses really don't matter. So let's rewrite all of these things. So I have 4 times, because there was nothing in front, parentheses, 8 minus 10. And again, that 2 needs to be a little 2. So it's going to be an exponent. Plus 7 plus, and then again, those parentheses don't mean anything, so I'm not writing them down. Now I can go fill in my chart. Let's mark that out. Okay, so I have parentheses, yes. Exponents, I do have an exponent. So I have multiplication, so I'm going to put an M. Now remember, this subtraction does not count as subtraction down here because it's in the parentheses. So that doesn't go there. Okay, I do have an exponent. My E's already there. I have a plus sign, so I have add. And then I have another adding sign. All right, that's not a subtraction. This right here, this is a negative, not a subtraction. So now I can go through and actually solve. So let's do that. I have parentheses. Yes, I do. So I'm going to put a box around the parentheses. And I need to do 8 minus 10. And again, can we do 8 minus 10? No. So this is a positive 8. This is a negative 10. So if I go make a table, I have different signs subtract. 10 minus 8 is 2. And the negative had more power. So my answer is going to be negative 2. Okay? I'm going to mark that out. Now this is super important right here. This exponent right here was on that parentheses. So now it needs to go back on the answer from the parentheses. So that exponent goes back on that negative 2. Now I can rewrite everything else. In the back I have plus 7 minus 3, plus 7 minus 3. And in the front I have times 4. We can't forget that multiplication symbol right there. So now I'm done with parentheses. This time I do have an exponent. So when we put a box around that exponent, this is a negative 2 in the exponent. So that means I write negative 2 times and I multiply. Okay, and when we multiply with negatives, we have to use integer man. So over here I'm going to draw my integer man. I have 2 negatives, so what's left? A positive. And 2 times 2 is 4. So I have positive 4. I'm going to mark it out, and I'm going to rewrite. In the back, I have plus 7 plus negative 3. And in the front, I still have times 4. All right, exponents is done. Now I can go and do my multiplication. So in my multiplication, do I have any negatives? Nope. Good to go. 4 times 4 is 16. Mark it out. Rewrite. Plus 7 plus negative 3. Now I can go to my next step. I have adding. So I'm going to start at the front. I go plus, so 16 plus 7 is 23. Mark it out. Rewrite. I have plus -3. Adding is done. All I have is that last step of adding one more time. Now, I cannot just do 23 plus 3 because it has a negative in there. So, when I do this last step, we have to use that table. That's why it's a good thing to put it there. 23 is positive, and then good versus evil, evil wins, so that stays in -3. So I need one more table. Okay, I have a positive and a negative, so different signs subtract. 23 minus 3 is 20, and my positive wins, so it is just positive 20. And then now that we have exponents, we have all of our pieces for our